Hi, welcome back. And this is Module 3, which is Bringing Your Best Self. Now, before we get into that too much, I'm hoping that you had a chance to take a look at the previous module, which was Toward a Growth Mindset, and that you took a look at the information in that module too. Particularly that Take Action section. We had you looking at Khan's Academy, how to grow your mind, and there was quite a few great resources in resources like TED Talks from Carol Dweck around that whole concept and model of the growth mindset. So hopefully you got a chance to take a look at that and that you've come here today with your growth mindset on, right? So what were some of the key takeaways from last module? Well, we certainly found that our traits are not fixed, right? We all have this amazing potential to be able to change both cognitive and non-cognitive traits. We just need to dedicate some effort to it. Maybe also be willing to change up our strategies if we have to, or take in the right supports at a given time, right? But we all have this potential to be able to change. At the same time, we also bring very valuable gifts and strengths to the table. Each one of us have a valuable contribution, and we're going to be exploring that a little bit more. But last module, I also talked to you about the importance of reflection. I was hoping that throughout your GIP journey, you're going to stay curious. You're going to keep asking yourself some important reflection questions. As you're going through your courses, why am I learning this? Why is this important? What does it mean? How does it relate to some of my past experiences? And now I also want you reflecting and thinking about what important strengths do you have? Let's explore this a little bit more. So how might we bring our best selves to each learning opportunity? Well, the way that we think about ourselves and the situation that we find ourselves in, right? Our environment and the others that are interacting with us in our context is very important. But just like a growth mindset, the way that we think about the situation and the way that we respond to these situations can change. And that when we are able to think about our situations kind of more positively or respond to them in a more positive manner, it tends to be a self-enhancing process. The more that we are able to reframe our situation and respond to it in an appropriate, kind of helpful manner, the more that that might build upon how and reflect upon how you see yourself. And the more that you see yourself in that effective light, the more your situation is responding to it as well. So knowing ourselves and what we think about ourselves is very important, right? Because we strive as humans, it's human nature, to want to remain aligned or remain authentic with who we think we are, our self-concept, and the actions that we do. In fact, take a look at that quote that I have up there on the slide. Who we are is how we lead. I love it so much, and I try to kind of take a look at it and reflect upon it as much as possible for me. It's important, I feel, and it's from Brene Brown. She is this amazing researcher and writer and professor. She's at the University of Houston. Her background is in social work, and she's also got a doctorate in philosophy, and she does really important work around leadership. And from this quote, it just speaks so much to me because we are wanting to make sure that our values, our core values, and our actions are well aligned. And a great way for us to be able to do that is, first of all, knowing what our core values are. And so you'll see in the Take Action section in the Do, I'm going to have you go through an exercise like that out of a list of several core values I have there on a sheet of paper. You're going to be trying to determine, narrowing it down from 10 to 5 to your top 3. And I challenge you to do that and to try and see what your core values are. And I'm going to ask you also to keep that core value with you, or values with you, all the way throughout the term. It's a really nice way of keeping you kind of grounded, for sure. So a nice way of being able to really understand that process and finding your strengths and knowing what your core values are is through a process called self-affirmation. And lots of research has been demonstrating that when you are kind of true to those core values and you have that alignment, that there are several positive associations with being able to reflect on that. Reflecting on your strengths really does lead to increases in well-being. So knowing your strengths and your core values are so important, but so are understanding your aspirations or your goals, right? One thing to be aware of is goal setting and attainment. They are complex. There's all kinds of factors that would influence whether or not you're able to achieve your goals. And some of the research, talks about how important it is to be taking a look at things like family and cultural values that might influence our goal attainment. It's a very complex process, right? The other thing to be mindful of is that the type of goal might be important too. So if we look at mastery goals versus performance goals, mastery goals being related to maybe understanding the material in a deeper way, understanding the process, maybe not just memorizing the material that you're given when you're in school, versus a deeper understanding. Those individuals tend to do better in terms of grades or persistence in staying in the program. In fact, there was a study that was done with over 700 first-year college students in a university in the US. Yes, 768 college students to be exact. And those with more of a mastery goal orientation, they had the best academic performance and persistence in the college. Now, these authors do talk about how performance goals do have a place, but it is certainly in keeping with the literature that mastery goals are important. Now, clarifying and personalizing goals may also further enhance our goal attainment, and you will get lots of opportunity in the GIP program to try and talk about personalizing some of your goals, making them SMART, which is a little acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. You're going to learn all about that, but it certainly does help put us on the path towards attaining them and then ultimately influencing our well-being. And lastly, the research is also indicating there was a nice review done by CARP, and I've got the reference here for you if you are wanting to dig a little deeper, but suggesting that there's lots of good correlational data to suggest that, like surveys and correlational data, that students who are able to connect their current learning, like what you're learning right now in the GIP program, and how you see that translating to your future practice, also is associated with greater academic achievement and program completion. Okay, so we have established that it's important for us to know what our goals are, but what about goals towards your future self, right? What about having this vision of your best possible self? And in the research, just in general, there's some strong evidence that best possible self-intervention actually increases well-being, particularly in the positive psychology domain of research. Also seeing that there's a connection between the current and future self that was found to be associated with some positive outcomes. There was a study that was done fairly recently with 119 college students, asking them questions about their perceived self and their future self and what that led to. And they found with these particular students that those who had a good connection with their current and future self, they
these students had better self-control, more of a future focus, and better academic outcomes than those who did not have that connection. We should be mindful that that particular study, for example, these outcomes are correlational, right? We can't demonstrate cause and effect. It wasn't a randomized controlled trial. They're just kind of following these students along, and that the assessment was all self-assessment, right? So it's the students who are reporting the information in, by on themselves. And so there's always some bias when you're doing self-assessments, right? But it's still interesting and it should be considered. I think for sure that it could be helpful in thinking about our best possible future self in terms of our goals into the future. But it also might be helpful to think of our best possible selves in the moment. And the reason I say that is Mark Brackett, you may have heard of his work. He's actually renowned for his work regarding emotional literacy. He's the founding director of Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence and has kind of come up with the evidence-based way of taking a look at social and emotional learning. He's developed this really cool acronym called the RULER. So being able to recognize and understand, label, express, and regulate our emotions. So he's this really intriguing and influential scholar with regards to emotional literacy. And he speaks to the power of having this vision of your best possible self. He talks about having this ideal hypothetical person that we would all like to be. When others are thinking about us, it's this person that kind of comes to their mind. And he sees it as being a really effective strategy. He goes on to suggest that this vision of your best possible self can actually help managing stressful situations, right? If you're faced with, a really challenging situation, he asks you to stop and pause and practice a meta moment. Stop, take a breath, and actually envision your best possible self. What would my best possible self do in this situation? And by giving yourself that time to stop, pause, reflect, and bring up that best possible self, you can reframe the situation and you can respond to that challenging situation in a better way. So I ask you, how do you envision your best possible self?
So now after this video, and like all of the modules, you're going to have an opportunity for that take action section, right? And I'm going to be asking you, what are your strengths? What are your core values? And in the do section, I'm going to have you complete the VAI character strengths survey as well as a core value exercise. It takes some time and some reflection, but it's super well worth it. It was an exercise that I actually had done a little while ago through my master's degree, and I found it so valuable that I want you guys to do it as well. And I refer to my core values a lot, trying to kind of keep myself anchored and remember aligning what I feel with what I do. So it's really valuable, and I think you'll get that same meaningfulness out of it as well. I'm going to get you to reflect also. What do you hope to get from the GIP program? Who do you aspire to be? Who is that best possible self even as well? And I want you to connect with your GIP community. What did you learn? What are your core values? And what even one core value do you plan to kind of keep with you, keep referring back to, keep in your back pocket? For me, over this last bit, it's been authenticity. But that's just me. Yours is going to look different, and I can't wait to learn more about that for you. And then I want you to explore that resource section, all kinds of cool TED Talks, blogs, etc. Brene Brown as well as Mark Brackett kind of come together in a really cool podcast. So check out some of those resources, and can't wait to see you until next time. Oops, I think I was signing off just a little bit too early there. Until next time, I'm going to get you to keep reflecting on some of these important questions, right? What are my core values? What are my actions? Are they in an alignment of what I believe of myself and what I do? Where am I going? How am I going to get there? Why is this meaningful and important to me? And now I can say I am looking forward to seeing you in the next module, which is, well, remember, this module is all about bringing your best self. Next module, it's going to be all about keeping that best self. So we'll see you then.